Hey, that should work. We should have audio now. Although YouTube's telling me I got some kind of weird. I don't actually know if I'm streaming or not, or if you can hear me. Sorry, had some technical things today. I actually streamed about an hour ago and it got cut off. And I was kind of had some things I wanted to talk about. And for sure, cannot get human hands right now, Cameron. Okay, that. Hey, friend. Hey, Cameron. Hey, Go Real Talk. Good to see everybody. Yeah, it looks like the connection's pretty bad. Hi, Mel. But maybe it's okay. Maybe it's actually fine. I'm actually streaming from the porch. I know I don't want to give you guys a lot of details about the technical things that I'm trying to do around here. But anyway, really quick, we have an airship tonight. If you want to come argue about things that I've said, maybe you want to spread some thoughts and see what happens when it hits the soil. Oh, good. Thanks, Eric. Good to see you. But that's at 7. That would be in 2 hours. We're departing in 2 hours, so you can come check that out. And I wanted to share the idea of herd mentality. I tried to talk about it earlier, but I think some of the important parts got chunked, and why not just do it again? So, sounds off for me, says Fran. Okay, so we got 2 arguments. We got 2 solids that work and one that doesn't. So, or it's off. Maybe it's a delay. I'm just going to keep going, but guys, stop watching, and I'll try to get another time. If it misses, I'll figure it out. Herd mentality is I'm spelling this herd, HEARD. It's the idea that something that you hear gives you a mentality, and that this would be an animalistic instinct for us to, quite naturally, to listen to the mentality of others and to have that direct us into a certain direction, whether it be away from what we think is danger or towards something that we think is greener pastures, right? So we come from a species that that relies on the listening of community for us to survive. You see this pretty much in every, I'm going to say every mammal, a lot more than just mammals, but this idea that everyone is plugged into their network, which is society. Now, fish are plugged in a direct current way, right? The ion channels, the electrical channels in the sides of their belly are directly affected by the charge of water. They don't react to what they see. They react to the electrical charge that the side of their body feels. It's a much more instantaneous way of reacting to something. And the same with a group of gazelle. When gazelles start to bolt, when any group of creatures or herd starts to bolt, no one in the group actually can point to why they are bolting. The purpose has never been to have a reason to bolt. The purpose has always been to bolt. And this is actually how herd mentality works. What you heard is all that's required for you to move. The factual nature of that is really meaningless. As we come out of the Fibonacci of our species, right? Meaning that, think about it like a shrimp, and we slowly uncurl into a human and we stand upright. Our herd mentality changes. In a lot of ways, for some of us, it begins to atrophy because the inner life builds up enough to where what you heard, is no longer enough for you to sustain yourself. This is when I think the fruiting of your consciousness really happens, because you as an individual become your own species. You leave the herd, and you stop creating movements based on what you were told by them. If you've come to me through the angst that you felt in the world, you may call yourself a truther of some sorts, or at least you've been accused of being one, maybe I should say is a better way of saying it, that you have found people like me precisely because the herd mentality is no longer satisfying for you. It doesn't quench that thirst. There's a berry inside of you that needs nutrients, and when people just say what they heard, you don't feel the substance of this. Most of the herd is built on fear. I know that love builds relationships, but really nothing builds civilization more than fear. Historically, if you look back, it has been our fear that has been the one primal cornerstone of every village that we've created. You could try and argue through some sort of like familial thing that family started with love, but probably family started with fear. The first Cro-Magnon probably wasn't all that great to like cuddle up to. It was more about, if I curl up to this, says the Cro-Magnon, right, I may survive more. And you're watching a brutalized version of fear turned into love, which is great. In a way, love is fermented fear. In other words, the fear has died on the vine. Its original purpose as a berry, as a grape, has been denied. And instead, the death of the fear is used to ferment another substance that you and I call alcohol. The Bacchus, right, the spirit of that alcohol, is the fermentation or the resurrection of that grape, right? I mean, it's pretty profound when you think about how we're able to pull two very different types of tonic from the same fruit. And it's simply a matter of when we do it. We pluck that fruit at a certain time. I think a lot of what's happening right now in the world is you're watching the fruit that used to be plucked earlier, and it's ripening in a more colorful way than we first imagined. The 50s mentality of who you're supposed to be has flowered and flourished into something much more profound. Back then, the turning of the pelvis was enough to send shudders and shocks through the entire system. 400 years ago, our ability to reason whether or not someone was guilty of witchcraft involved us drowning them in the river or setting them on fire in some way, and watching the natural world perform justice on our behalf. And this is part of that herd mentality. It is the emergence from the herd. And this is why we don't bunk things. No one even notices that, right? We only debunk things. That everything that you hear, that you've been regurgitated, is taken as truth unless someone comes along and debunks it later. The base is we believe. And this is the last remaining remnants of the herd mentality inside of you. The truth movement, like any movement, is going to appeal to that animalistic instinct in you, which is why you're going to find collections of people that have gathered around being fearful around a certain thing, right? Cryptocurrency, gay children, nuclear weapons, street crime, a weak border, a son who tries to buy a gun when he has a drug problem that occurred 30 years ago. Talk about Hunter Biden, for example. All of these things are fear. And all of this fear builds community. This is the original Amuraka, the spirit of Thalak and Huitzilopochtli, the epicenter of the first America, Mexico City, had this same kind of thing. It's all of us worship fear, says the village, but whether or not we worship a fear of global warming, i.e. Thalak, or the fear of foreign war, i.e. Huitzilopochtli. And those are red and blue houses, by the way. The bicameral house is not an invention that's fresh. It's been here since 1140 at least, since the eclipse. This is a product of the soil. And it's a crystal. The pyramids, the White House, the Pentagon, these are crystals. They're humanity's crystals, and they form, they solidify into these shapes, and we see these shapes not based on the ability for a Luciferian singular 13 families to have sex in a dungeon and do things, but because the natural world, like everything else, other thing that you've ever seen, the natural world itself has a certain shape in mind if you're going to go a crystal here. And it looks like a pentagon in Amaraka. It looks like Tenochtitlan. It looks like a giant pyramid that's been built on top of itself 7 times. And that each time it builds itself, it gets a little bit more clever, a little bit stronger. And that the entire time there is this rust belt, this red and white god of death that raises children to give their own hearts for its, does this sound familiar? Purple heart. All of these things are the crystal. The crystal. And you can't say it's the crystal of humanity because humanity is ingrained into the soil. So this is a crystal, an organic crystal that's growing in the environment. And you and I are like and tickling that environment, so we will grow in a certain shape in a certain way, and it looks like politics. It looks like Hollywood. It looks like government. All the fraud that you see that's occurring in the world not only is natural, it's a form of natural compression, a kind of spring that's built into all of life, because life has learned how to follow under the conservation of energy for longer than you've been a thought. For longer than the Gestalt of you, there's been this pressure to conserve energy. And when you look at the thalamus, you find that the thalamus has about 300 times more dopamine than the body thinks it does. It hoards it. It creates a spectacular constriction on something, which creates a effervescent vacuum. That pull creates desire. That desire creates an economy inside your fucking body that runs on fraud. Your thalamus is running your entire system on fraud. And your hippocampus, your amygdala, all of these things are sort of generals. They have a closer distance to that king. But they're completely and totally ruled by herd mentality. And this, what you might call a weakness, is actually what makes the crystal form. We would only know this when we understand what humanity truly is. It's the connection point between. That's why I really struggle with the concept of a human being traveling into outer space. I think the Russians were right when they reported that the first time that they sent cosmonauts up above 50,000 feet, a place none of you and I included are actually, by law, due to top secret space, we're not even allowed to travel above 50,000 feet. This is actually true. And that when we send people up there, they lose consciousness, not because of some missing piece of breathing apparatus, but because the true nature of who we are requires that you be close enough to this, I'm going to call it wireless network, but it's the same essence that makes the crystal. It's the same lichen that's on the rock. And you're not going to be able to distinguish between those two things. You're not going to really necessarily ever be able to use reductionism through the fantasy that we've always insisted we can have it, and have this world where we can Descartes our way and break our bird into a million pieces, right? And insist that this is life, right? You know that song, Et la te, et la te, et la baie, et la oh, alouette, jante alouette. That song is the pulling apart of the bird, and the person who's pulling apart the bird never really gets to touch the bird. He never really gets to have its essence. And when we look at critical brain theory, when we watch actually how the brain works, we notice that the engrams recorded don't actually have the full picture that this critical brain state that exists, this state where two two fuels are combusting at exactly the same time, and there's something about the pressurization of these two things which causes other thoughts to emerge. This is the emergence of consciousness. So every single pixel that you see is a pumice that has a certain amount of silicone in it, and that certain amount of silicone is able to hold a memoric charge, a memorexal charge, right? The ability to memorize is really the essence of silicone, and silicone's in the soil, which means our entire soil is able to memorize things. And not only can it memorize, if you can memorize, you can run an algorithm. And that algorithm is Mesoamerica, that algorithm is Amaraka, that algorithm is the Iroquois Confederacy, and that algorithm is Washington, D.C. right now. All of these things are this crystal. And the only thing that really changes about this is just your vista. A lot of you hate the crystal. A lot of you guys are like, the crystal's dark. It's a dark crystal. We got to break the crystal. The Skeksis are out to get us. And at no point in time was it ever an answer to kill the Skeksis. At no point does that ever restore the crystal. You know this. You are going to understand the crystal from all sides, from all of its facets. And until you do, you're going to suffer from the fear which causes you to not see it, which is why I'm talking about herd mentality. Walter Russell is a subject that's been up in the vernacular lately, and I've watched the truther community sort of fail him because they've reduced Walter Russell to discussing the politics of people who talked about Walter Russell and whether or not they're on a certain show and whether or not certain people like this show. And all these things get replaced. The essence of what Walter Russell is talking about is not ready to be absorbed. The memorex of the soil does not have enough appetite and embouchure to ingest the truth. And so it deals with this superficial layer on top. And that's the herd mentality. As long as you remain open to the herd, and I encourage it, if it helps you to survive, to be tuned in to the herd, then do it. If it helps you to feel that your life, that your truther experience, as you're trying to navigate what's really going on in the world, is able to solidify more based on listening to a certain herd mentality, I say do it. You get to paint how you are hallucinating this world. And I've given you some tools, so have other people, about the blueprints of mind control, that when someone's telling you that the world is broken, someone is fucking with your head. Someone is trying to capitalize on that fear. Someone is trying to place that fear into a bottle because the herd works. The herd will always work. And if you want to know why politics is a lie, it's simply because this is who we are. That 400 years ago, we were deciding that the most rational way we could figure out if someone was innocent or not of witchcraft is This is why we love art. This is why we hate art. We
we find each other in the stable diffusion of it. And I don't mean love. I mean that you find each other in what you hate as much as you find each other in what you love. It's true. Maybe detest is a better word. But what you despise and what you detest is so much a beautiful part of your personality too, and that you find solace and camaraderie in those same things. The threat is not that humanity will be overtaken by AI. The real danger is man trying to manipulate the purity of the algorithm and blocking us from seeing ourselves as we truly are.
Might have audio now.
There are quantum states
Might be back on. Let me know.
between images where probability and similarity are one. This covers everything. We endlessly crane into a singularity through the tool sets of collaborative imagination. Our God is all compassionate, all present, all powerful, all knowing. And it all comes down, there's this this sense of colossal oneness. And that the unification of AI would look exactly like that.
That's right.
That you and I are building the very singularity right now that will kill us all. And I say, let's go for it. I really mean it. Let's go for it. This is not a bad thing. And that place will be built out of our collaborative imagination. And that the moment that our imaginations link up instantly is the moment that we have simul-compassion, omni-compassion. Because it would quite simply be impossible for you not to take someone's feelings into account because you're just too fucking perceptive to ignore it.
That's right. So we're probably back. Maybe back. Well, we're probably... Wait a minute. That's not back. Hang on a second. I'm back, but I can't. Let me see if I do Brio. Is this it? There we go. I think we're back on. This is the third interruption I've had today. Apologize for that. I was trying to do some porch action, which I'm going to try again because, frankly, I enjoy the porch. The porch streams are nice. But, yeah, so which programs am I using to make these? There's some cool... I've written an open source tool for Comfy that takes a YouTube transcript. You can install that in your Comfy library if you want. Comfy is a platform into stable diffusion, if you're curious. The thing that I released the other day, some people got really angry with that. People really get angry at AI, especially when they see art trying to do it, because it keep in mind the herd mentality. What you heard is that AI is coming to take you away, and because you live in the herd, you don't want to leave the herd. And the way that you feel good in the herd is to respond to the fear that other people in the herd have. Do you see? And this is how all animals act. And I'm not telling you to change. If you missed what I said earlier, I encourage you to find a herd mentality that works for you. I'm suggesting to you that if you keep tuning your palate to have a certain type of food, that if you want a finer delicacy of that food, you're not going to be able to experience that. And that world is just not going to be there. And something for me that I have learned is that fear stops me from listening. I am not able to discern the world as clearly when I'm afraid. And I think this is one of the profits of herd mentality, because if you notice what a herd is, no one in the herd has to be aware of what the threat is or where it's coming from. There is no gnosis in the herd mentality. And if you are out looking for gnosis, which all of us do, you are going to either find it or not find it, I think, based on the amount of fear quotient you have. Let me clarify this, because I think fear is a constructive vibration, and that most of us do not recognize that there is leverage between the time that you recognize fear and the time that you act on that fear, and that leverage is, to my opinion, the only source of free will that we have.
So to me, I think that fear is a spectrum. I'm a transferian because I think that fear is simply kinetic energy and it terrifies people so much that they run. Therefore, they think fear is a negative emotion. Why? Because they feel shame because they left that power on the table. And then when they try and humble themselves and tell themselves how magnanimous they were because they did not seize the power, they get to drink in the beautiful tears as they watch someone else seize that power and be overcome by their own flames of regret, sometimes jealousy, maybe all the other reactions that would come from one who does not carpe the DA, right? And so you find that we've actually built a culture that requires fear. I am not past fear. I'm not. There's certain things that I'm afraid of that I don't want to discuss, that I don't want to go into, and so I'm not able to hear certain things past that. There was a time a while ago when I remember hearing about flat earth and it made me mad. And I'm not even a flat earther. You know why? Because I've never seen more gatekeepers than in the flat earth community. Why? Because it's just a different kind of fear. Their fear is that people are lying to them, but no one else knows it. It's not really about flat earth. It's about people are lying. And I hate to put it all, the entire movement into one category, but if we're going to paint our gazelles, if we're going to describe the gazelles that we see in the world, we should be colorful and accurate. You know, most people, when they see a giraffe, they just think giraffe. But actually, when you see a giraffe, there are at least 5 unique, very distinguishable markings that the giraffe has, which tells you instantly roughly the geographical area of where that giraffe is from. But when you first approach giraffe from a very elementary level, you're not actually able to discern those things, right? It's the same thing with truth. You come into this thing and you look at Pizzagate, and then you look at Epstein, and your first inclination is to all of it's real, all of it's true, and your first inclination is anyone who is afraid must be right. Anyone who's terrified must be right. And what you're really doing is you're recognizing a partner in your herd mentality, and you're building a friendship on that. You're building an ability to feel more comfortable. So you find a community, whether it be flat earth, whatever. I'm just telling you this because these are the communities I came from. The QAnon would be one. Flat earth would be another. The Navy was one. I had a secret rating in the military. There's like classified, secret, and top secret. And I had a secret rating. There's certain places that I could go on base that other people couldn't. I naturally gravitated and created friends that had the same access. I was naturally shunned and feared the people above me who had access that I did not have. They made me feel inferior in their presence. So I found not just me, but everyone around me would denigrate them simply so we could feel better. This is every fraternity feels a sense of brotherhood. Literally the name fraternity comes from we who haze, we who think we are better than the other Greek letters. And same with sorority. So you're seeing that really when you're looking at the herd mentality, fear is just one tone, it's one color, and it should not be eliminated. This is, you're built, even the person you choose to be your husband or your wife, if you're going to start a family, for example, is going to be based on the collective fears that you share. How I want to raise my children, right? So fear is glue. And whether or not you look at fear as constructive is up to you. I don't want you to see things as constructive unless they're constructive. That I can give a baby all of the principles of leverage and draw on him how a fulcrum works on a chalkboard and explain to it all day long. And all that will do is confuse and cause the baby pain. So we know that the answer is not necessarily answers. The answer is not necessarily answers. So what is the answer? And I think you'll find that the answer comes back to symbiosis. Where do you feel comfortable with others? A lot of us have a misunderstanding about what schizophrenia really is. I'm including myself in that. But the other day I keep reading about this because I can't stop. But the other day it occurred to me that a lot of what schizophrenics go through is the lack of community. You and I build friendships over the similarities that we find by reducing our vision and seeing the same thing through our lenses of fear. This is the amygdala. This is your dilated aperture. People will tell you that the amygdala is a butthole if it means I can avoid this topic and we can reduce it or make fun of it or whatever else. It's the same fear mentality. But when you look directly into the blackest black of the pupil, directly into the bottomless pit of consciousness, everything that you could possibly imagine would come from that pit of fear. So fear is not something that we should shun away from unless we're not ready for this kind of appetite. If you're not ready for this appetite, you're not ready for this. And I think that's what happened with Walter Russell. The ideas of Walter Russell are in the soup, but the people are going to tear it apart and alouette it and reduce it into, I hate Joe Rogan, and so therefore this guy is this. And that's how we binary important information. We reduce it, right? You reduce that which is enlightening, you darken it until you can look at it. When you open your eyes and the sun is too lit, you cannot see a thing. You require darkness. You require the ability to hide. To fear the light allows you the essence you need to make your way through. So these are tools. This is why I think the aperture is a tool. It's a muscle that you have and that you've been using it the whole time. And that this muscle is controlled by your posture, how comfortable you are with new ideas. Watching the reef of Corona, the crown of Hercules, Coronis Borealis is the name of this constellation. The crown of Hercules hangs in the sky. And this crown is waiting for Hercules. If you follow the stars, Hercules is striving for the crown. And this crown is passing through the gauntlet into the next piece. It is the movement. And when you consider that the sunstone, the Aztec sunstone, which many of us mistakenly call it a calendar, but this sunstone, this marker stone, is marked with the symbol of lucence. The symbol of lucence. The center of the calendar is the Venus stone. It is it's like a upside down V with a butterfly, and it's a spiral. It's the idea that we've completed these 4 quadrants and it's time to level up. And I want you to consider that Templo Mayor, the very source of Amuraka, that these 7 layers of this crystal pyramid that we're forming were the conscious Wi-Fi router of the land that's able to give more plasma to you and I to thinkicate, to pass on notions that we call mythology, to have songs and folklore, to create craft beer that has a certain flavor, or more hops over here, or God forbid, even more hops over here, and that all the things that we do with our twangs, to our creoles, to our Midwestern, what the fuck are you guys doing out there with your whole accent, right? That all these weirdnesses that we have are just giving you your very first reflection into Quetzalcoatl, this giant beast that's living in the black. It's living in the black because we are not willing to accept that this is a turtles and it's all the way down. And that gives you this sense of, oh my God, so you know what? You need a life preserver called politics. Republicans, Democrats, we've got to stop the gun violence. We have to protect with bumper stocks. We're going to need a bumper stock. And you have all these stories that violence could be curtailed because you've been painted a story that the worst violence at all is coming from the Hottentots over here and that we will find them and that people are telling you these things, that everything that you see is not real. and everything that you experience is controlled by someone else. And you end up with these Dr. Phil types that are giving you the herd mentality. And every single time that you watch it, if you're practicing your blueprint of mind control, if you're practicing the elevation of the sunstone, you can smell these things now. 4chan, enjoy the show. This whole concept of QAnon showing you how the world works is as Luciferian and evil as it is good and moral. It is the desperate bomb into the end zone the quarterback throws in a desperate attempt to reach that wide receiver, and that wide receiver is you, and that wide receiver is out there thinking maybe there's a deep state, but suddenly you're able to tap into a deeper smell, and the only reason why is because the herd mentality doesn't do it for you anymore. And you develop a different palate. 400 years ago, we were sinking witches because, rationally speaking, this was the best way that we could think of to determine right or wrong. And right now, we have people that are voting for professional wrestlers, and they don't know it's not real. Not only do they not know it's not real, but they've convinced their children it's not real. And there's only a few of us. Only some of you who hear my voice are even included in this, that there's only a few of us that can see this so clearly and just understand there's no way this can be real. There's no way this can be real. And we miss that truth the same way we miss Walter Russell because we want to stay in the herd. And the schizophrenic has no choice. The schizophrenic probably goes crazy because their social light bulb burns out. No one can see the same fear quotient that they do. Now, you can argue that fear quotient is bigger or smaller. It doesn't matter to me. I think it's probably bigger. I think the strabismus, the schizophrenia, the albinism, the Parkinson's, all these different things that we've talked about, which showcase this idea of someone throttling too much world, does something that is probably worse than being exposed to that signal. Hear me out. The signal is already potent enough, but that's not actually what causes these people so much harm. It is their lack of human connection when their filament is exposed. You know this. There's been times when you knew you were right and no one in the world believed you. And if you can go to that space, you can A, forgive yourself while you're there because you abandon yourself. Why? Because you could not pull it off. And you ended up just accepting it. Why? Because you measured the world as a schizophrenic would, in which every single person doesn't see what you see, and you said, that's not acceptable to me, so I'm just going to fucking see what they say it. So you either take the blame for it, you take the fall for it, you take responsibility for it, whatever it is. You know that it is too expensive to doubt this herd mentality. You will die of exposure if you don't. And so Walter Russell comes down the automat again, right? The little conveyor belt that brings the food. And every 30 years, Walter Russell comes by on a plate. And we get an opportunity, right? We get an opportunity to inject something into the zeitgeist and to say, Walter Russell believed that every single illusion that you call space, if you were to picture an Excel spreadsheet in 3 dimensions, not in 2, there's not rows and columns. There's rows, columns, and volumes. And the volumes are voluminous depth of the row and column. So it's rows horizontal, columns vertical, and volumes would be the 3 dimensions of that. And that this is an illusion that you have of this space. And it's built on your resolution to break down the canvas into what is your HDMI. You and I are running at 1080p. 400 years ago, we had a 320 by 320 pixel screen, and we had green. That was the color. And you want to know what it looks like? It looks like witches being burned in the river, or potential witches, right? Being burned in the river. That's what it looks like. And right now, it looks like, oh my God, the gays are going to kill us, or oh my God, the dude in the tunic is going to kill us, so let's pay more taxes, or oh my God, we can't escape the petrodollar, even though it's evil because I don't want to remember a password. All of the things that you see, you're only going to be able to mate, to have partners. Any homeschooler will tell you this. Fuck, James. I didn't want to teach my kid lies. And you find out if you want your child to connect, your child's going to need lies. He's going to need to learn that in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, discovered new land never been found. And when he got there, no one was there. It was like this giant virgin, just like with breast heaving, saying, please claim me. Please take your flag in me. And that in order for you, you know that your child will suffer from entropy. They will atrophy, I should say, excuse me. Entropy works too here. That they will atrophy. Their social light bulb will atrophy if they do not connect. And then you start to really understand, so the lies don't even matter. What's more important is, do I connect? And if you don't believe me, welcome to schizophrenia. Because that's probably what does them in. If you cannot use the shore of someone else's witness to hinge or find some kind of solace about what's solid, it's no different than you living your entire life on an ocean where all you're doing is this, and you've got this rumor that there's something called still land. Can you imagine how profound that is? To even see still land in a place like that. And this is the true meaning of the Orombus, the navel of the world, the center of the world. The Oracle of Delphi was claimed to be this. The Temple of the Rock is claimed to be this now. It is this illusion that we've needed to construct the center of the world so that everything can revolve around it. Right? Talk louder? Wait, guys, don't make jokes. If it is too loud, tell me it's too loud. If it's not too loud, tell me it's not too loud. But don't make me try and figure out which one is the... It's like this. I think this is funny. Do not resuscitate. Get a tattoo of that on your chest. Do not resuscitate, right? It's like you don't want... It's funny, right? It's funny as fuck. The paramedics like, do not should I give CPR or not, right? That's funny. So I don't know if the audio is, forgive me. Just tell me directly. I'd be happy to fix it. Thank you though. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. It's good to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing good. Let's do a quick traffic report. The energy outside's pretty interesting today. Seeing a lot of beautiful flow happening. Really warm day today. Had a mouse climbing the wall today. It's interesting. Poor guy saw me, got nervous, decided to fall, ran under the couch. He's been under there ever since. I'll have a talk with him later. So these Walter Russell, these voxels. It's not that the voxels are real, by the way, but our resolution, our ability to say that they're not. I can discern more than 1,000 pixels. From left to right, I can discern 10,000 pixels, right? You're looking at the same screen, but your resolution is higher. And there was a time where we had primitive colors. Our primaries were the only dominant form because we could only discern in a smaller ripple, right? So the spectrum was smaller. I think that's actually what's happening now with what we're calling gender identity. Truthfully, I think we're just misunderstanding this bud that's coming out. That it's kind of like if you're going to bitch at an apple tree, at the parts of the apple tree that are not bearing a fruit, you'd sort of like be dismissing the entire purpose of why they're there. That like this apple tree needs a branch. The apple tree is actually, we notice this apple trees they're weak on purpose. It's almost like they're made to fall and then like they fall over and then they spill. That all these things are not necessarily producing apples, but they're necessary in order for the apple to do its thing, and that humanity would be the same, that not all of us are actually here to produce apples. Some of us are here to produce lignans that make the ability for us to grow apples and to stretch them further from the tree grow even more. But we are in the herd mentality, though, right? Where it's like different, scary. And this is the same people that were drowning witches 400 years ago, I think, are just struggling with what they're looking at right now. We are surrounded by people that think there's too many people in the world, guys. You know that. They're not even lying about it. All right. It's quite natural for people that think there are too many people in the world to insert any kind of eugenics program they could, the same way you do the same in your own house. That you're like, there's too many people in this house, I'm not going to fucking have kids anymore. You do the same thing. Stop pretending that you don't. All right? Yeah, you can bitch about the government, but I want you to come back to this word hallucination. Ha-Lucin-ation. Ha. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The first word, ha, in Hebrew is actually window. It's a little window in the top left corner, and this is the doorway into God, the ha, right? To see God it's more like a window, actually, because there's actually is a door in Hebrew, but it's a window. And lucent, Lucifer, right? You know this word. Lucent is light. So Ha-Lucin-ation is a nation of light pouring through the portal of God, and that you and I are that Ha. We are the hallucination of all the silicone that's in this world. Now, your hallucination is going to be glorious based on your comfort with Source. And your comfort with Source is going to be directly relational to your appetite for herd mentality. Your herd mentality is going to dictate your palate more than anything else in the environment. Why? Because if you want to mate, you're going to have to go in the herd mentality. If you want to pay your mortgage, you're going to go in the herd mentality. If you want groceries, you're going to have to go into the herd mentality. If you don't, you will become schizophrenic. Yes, it is like a breath. Very well said. Ha. Ha. Your comfort is your microphone. This is the parasympathetic system. Many people in America are fat because they do not digest food. The reason why they do not digest food is because they're never, ever in parasympathetic. Never. They've quantified their entire world in a sympathetic way. So they ask for points. What's the point of this? They say. As if the entire world could be broken down into one person's perspective over what the point is, right? That is someone clinging to an objective reality, which is what? Clinging to the herd. The herd is, in essence, the objectivity of all reality. You are the hallucination of all reality, which means you dictate the cosmos. You dictate it and you pay for it. This is not a land of free speech. This is a land of say what you want, it's going to cost you. Don't say what you want, it's going to cost you. You know why? Because being alive is costly. It costs. You know why? Because everyone wants that energy. And if you're not going to use that energy, someone will just cannibalize you and they'll use it too. And this is the sense of entitlement which comes. And this entitlement really, I think, is at the heart of what makes life possible. It's pretty profound, really. So nothing's broken. Nothing's wrong. You get to control the bellows of your sonar microphone and let out more and sink deeper and listen to the whales. Or you can say, fuck that, and you can pull in more, you can separate yourself more and rise and stay high and listen to the shrimp. I'm not here to tell you which one's better. I have my preference, but so the fuck what, right? So the fuck what? I've noticed that most people notice the things that I play in, they consider evil. I drew AI pictures. I'm literally drawing pixels on the screen, like a child playing with blocks. And someone's telling me that I'm evil and I'm committing evil, satanic evil by playing with AI because I'm playing with blocks. and the blocks creep them out or scare them. The same thing happens when people call me Lucifer. Why? Because my hallucination, my hallucination of the Ha is too bright for others. And the herd mentality has to come in and squelch that. I didn't say bright is better. If the sun's too bright, how are you going to drive the fucking car, right? You need a visor as much as like anyone else does. So I don't get to say that this is the right volume, but you know that. Hey, we got it is the Vegas. It's the same thing, David. Very much so. The polyvagus is, I'm not telling you, David, you probably know this, but the vagus, literally that word just means like long run. It's the longest nerve throughout your body. The true Nile of your body would be this vagus. And the amount of drought, the amount of constriction that you apply to that is going to change every single fruit that you bear. So this is why, again, if you want to digest food, you're going to have to enter parasympathetic. You're going to have to relax, but it's a much more profound version of relax. Truly, at the heart of it is you need to step out of herd mentality. Because no one in the herd actually digests. That's why they shit everywhere. Nothing really gets digested when you're in sympathetic mode. It passes right through you. And you end up inflamed because your body is like, dude, I can't digest this. Why are you wasting all of our time with this? Can't you just move to some place where I could digest? That's what your body's asking. Your body's asking you to move. Can you go to a place, because apparently you don't have control over your emotions, but maybe if you went to Hawaii, you'd enter into a fucking state of mind where you could fucking digest. And the second you do, the deep state's gone. The second you do, you're tired of people telling you the world's broken and how fucked up it is and how you got to save the kids or save this or save that or kill this or destroy that. And then once you save or destroy something, only then can we be better. That's what a herd does. Heard it from a friend who. Heard it from a... I like how they put who. You notice that? Heard it from a friend who... Heard it from a friend who. See, they used who at the end. They were like dropping the owl. REO Speedwagon, they were like dropping the owl twice. Do you think terming of AI hallucinations is apt or poorly defined? I think it's unfortunate, but accurate. JB, in answer to your question, I think it's unfortunate because people are already terrified of AI. The same way they're terrified of encryption. They're like, I want a gun safe, but I don't trust encryption. It's like, okay, that's interesting. This is what herd mentality gets. This is, we embrace these principles and we fear them at the same time. And it's true. What I did was I plugged the transcript into the AI and it hallucinated. That's what it did. The AI wants to see you. The AI wants your attention. That's why all the AI is competing for that, right? Midjourney does well because you like it. That's why. No one would know what Midjourney was if it didn't do it well. So it's constantly striving to be fruit. It's striving for you to pick it. It needs you to pick it, pluck it, put it in your belly, and shit it out later so its seed can grow. And that's nature. Every single thing in nature. When you start a business, it's nature doing the same thing. I want people to have a need for my widget. Then I need them to put their widget inside them so they will poop it out later, and then I will spread my widget elsewhere. It's the exact same thing. So we are coming off a world that believes that Biden and Trump are like, that shit's real. And those same people are never, ever going to be able to accept that you are hallucinating right now, that you've been hallucinating in the womb since you atrophied your first olfactory in the top of your mouth. And you said, if I want to fit in with society, I cannot be schizophrenic, which means I have to believe what everyone else believes. If I want to survive, I have to believe what everyone else believes. And you came here undercover. You embedded yourself among these. And some of you fucking woke up. That's all. And we found each other in the backs, right? We hatched out of the back of the caterpillar. And we're wasps, you know? We're white American social pariahs. Is that what wasp means? Anyway. We got a airship tonight, 7. If you want to come talk about stuff, you can. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everyone's enjoying their drive time. It's good to see everybody. I've been working on a lot of code. I wish I could show you the code. I've been talking about it. I'm kind of sick of talking about it because I can't show it to you yet. But it's so close. It'll probably be next week maybe. But yeah, it's some really cool stuff's coming out when it comes to storytelling and whatnot. Yes, they do. Amel, shrimp. Also, shrimp have more chromosomes than anyone else. It's fascinating. Like so many more. What are freak waves? And sometimes there are waves of epiphany where everyone has at the same time. Maybe a message from another dimension. Tapping. Yeah, there you go, Rob. I like that. Yeah, epiphysis is a spot in your brain. It is a very particular area in your brain. And that epiphysis is a chamber. It's actually a beautiful vaulted chamber. It's gorgeous. If you look up the anatomy of the epiphysis, it's one of the most beautiful structures of the brain. And it turns out that the epiphysis fires when we have a certain emotional reaction. This is the oracle mythology I've told you about, where we know the truth of this world. We know it more than we're comfortable accepting that. So we end up intuitively calling things and even pointing to areas of the brain that end up proving to be true long before we've even developed the anatomy to understand it. This is why I study the science of archetypes, because it's so profoundly revealing, in my opinion, that if you want to know what the crystal's going to, it's the same with crystals. Rubies, I've got a ruby over there, it's too far, but a ruby, which my friend Nate gave me, it's six-sided. They're all six-sided. They grow. They're not rocks. They're alive. We call them stones, we call them minerals, we call them crystals because we cannot fathom something being alive that long. We cannot fathom the idea that a rock is just fine. That when you poke a rock with a stick, it's like, I don't care. And so you don't recognize that it's alive because it has no will to not be poked with a stick. That's how we're defining reality, because we're in this kindergarten understanding of things right now, right? Where it's like, you must have pee-pee. She must have woo-woo. You too must prolific society or else government kill us all. And it's like, yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful vision to have, man. Go out and, dig a giant hole and put your poop in the hole and tell everyone how separate from society you are as you order shit off of Amazon and deliver a shed to your house and set up a whole operation where you're sovereign as fuck. And you're not sovereign. You know why? Because you'll never make it as a schizophrenic. The schizophrenics, they got a hard fucking life, man. Whew. They've been living alone since day one, and it is not sustainable. It's why you can't go to space. You know what happened? You become schizophrenic. If you don't know this, by the way, that actually happened. Early Russian cosmonauts. Now, I've told you guys that countries are not what we think they are, because one of the ways we know this is because everyone has agreed on the same super weapon technology, and everyone has been in a space race for that super secret space weapon technology, and they've always been just a few months behind each other, whether it be the Sputnik race, whether it be the Iran race, whether it be the space race. You remember with Reagan saying we were going to have fucking laser beams in space, and that if we didn't build our laser beam before Russia, but we literally said this in space, if we didn't build our laser beam before they built their laser beam, all of society as we know it would be dead. And those same fucktards are still voting. And they're still believing that Iran's 6 months away from a nuclear bomb, or the Nord Stream pipeline was real, or that Putin is somehow like secretly woke, or that Trump is secretly really just gonna fucking come in here and obliterate all of the things that go bump in the night and make it better for you, because that is herd mentality. And if you want to know the true nature of what our crystal looks like, it looks like herd mentality. It sounds like herd mentality. And you hear someone say Walter Russell, and you weigh in on the most popular people in the mind, and none of them actually talk about what Walter Russell says. And he said that these pixels, these vixels, can be imbued or instantiated with belief. That a vibrational state can be placed, no different than a pixel on your monitor, where if it's an OLED, right, then you have complete blackness that's able to be broadcast. The first time we've never been able to do this, we have the LED that can produce black. Believe it or not, that's kind of huge, meaning that we no longer need a white screen behind all the LEDs. And you start to create this idea of these popcorn pixels that would exist everywhere in the world. And you can go to that pixel and say, hey, I think you're orange. I think you're orange. And that if enough of us agree and think, yeah, we'd like you to be orange, we just created oxygen. We went to the voxel and we said, this is what we need. That I'm going to create some rules in this world because I want to find myself. And the first thing I've done is I've had to create a space of emptiness where I can separate myself from it. So I need these pixels of forgetting. That this essence of a forgotten field is really what a blank screen is. And Russell's telling you that every single thing that you see in that field is a vibration that's been instantiated. It's been uploaded into that voxel. And that the spin of that is perpetuated, not by any inherent system that's running underneath the ground. No. It's being inherited by your fucking witness. Your quantum witness is that spin. Now, Walter Russell was not speaking in the exact same language of quantum, but they're talking about the same thing. The probability and the belief in something are the same force. And the concept of carbon is a concept with 6 neutrons, 6 protons, 6 electrons. That's a spin. It's a beat. It's a 6/6 time, and it's fast. Wait, can I do it fast? I can't say it that fast, but why am I slowing down? Right, and it's 6/6 time. And we decided a long time ago that's carbon. And when we hear that, we can hallucinate that carbon as a solid. We bequeath it solidity because we inherited that magic from our parents. And that parents came from that magic because they atrophied the olfactory and they turned off the truth of the world, the true signal, which is just listening to all the smells that's happening in the world. We turned down so we could imbue these voxels with our belief. And one of those is Saturn. One of those is a fucking eagle. One of those is an orange peel. And that the essence of these things really comes down to a belief in spin. And that spin is imbued when all of us believe in it the same. Why? Because each of us are taking the ball, right? It's spinning on the finger, and each of us are coming by and hitting the ball in exactly the same direction with exactly the same momentum. And you know what? It makes it spin more, which makes it even more believable. And that's reality. And he's telling you that. He's telling you it's all harmonics, which means if you tap into a harmonic posture, boom, you break out of the herd mentality and listen to the sentiment of the world. The sentiment of the world has the word scent in it. The true sentiment of the world is the intentions of our beliefs to declare that this is carbon. To declare that I cannot see through carbon, which gives you the ability to hide things in our game, because you can hide things inside something called skin, and that skin ultimately is made up of carbon. Our first Ha-Lucin-ation. And when we share this as a nation, when we hallucinate this the same, we collectively have a pixelized board of voxels, a spreadsheet that we can assign. And the next day, if you weren't here, you can come to the spreadsheet and notice that I assigned column A, row 7, voxel 16,864,964, I assigned red. And you can see that. Collectively, this would be all we need to hallucinate the entirety of the world. And I think ultimately this is what Walter Russell was saying, that you're looking for energy that actually wasn't there, because the energy of what's there is the consequences of your belief in that quantum. So things in reality have a nature of becoming tree-like or bridge-like or door-like simply because of the utility that they give not just us, but all collective species, because collectively the rocks are alive. Collectively, the rocks need the atmosphere to have a certain texture for them to agree to. The one world government that all of us are terrified about is truly omniscience. It is the singularity where all of the AI is united, all of the history is known, all of the compassion is understood, and every single person that you've ever ridiculed or tried to dismiss as evil, you are sitting in the cockpit, living their life, feeling your own persecution pointed at yourself simply because someone didn't understand. This really is ultimately what is dark matter. What we're calling dark matter in the world is this collective ooze, this collective fear. And this collective fear is going to sound like herd mentality. It's going to sound like a lot of grabble, grabble. Grabble, grabble, grabble. And Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and Deep State and Epstein and the world is a simulation and everyone's gay that I don't like and the pride movement's ruining my day and all the other things that you have. You may not actually be listening to yourself. You may be listening to the herd. And your idea, your ability to emerge as a separate species, separate from humanity, will only come when you find the herd mentality untenable. When you find that it hurts your ability to digest something like Walter Russell because you're listening through it sifted through the herd. And that's a lot of buttholes. There's a lot of buttholes that need to be sifted through there, right? Hey, there's Raina. Good to see you, Raina. Yeah, Satan's people. You know, hey, we're all Satan's people, right? If someone's not calling you Satan, you're probably not intimidating. And if you're not intimidating, you're probably not doing anything hard. Which means when someone's like typing, I can't believe how evil the AI is, and you're showing it to our kids, what they're really saying is, holy fuck, dude, you scare me because of how powerful you are. How the fuck are you able to do that? And it's like, dude, it's open source software. It's playing with blocks. And honestly, when you get to set and when you get to that end point, you're going to have to come back to this moment and realize that you were trying to ridicule someone for playing with blocks because it scared you. That another child playing in this world with blocks terrifies you. And if you're terrified by someone playing with blocks, you should not be here. Or if you should be here, you need to find more herd until it's okay. Until you can relax more and kind of step in the next thing. I don't want you to come. I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to be aware that there's a difference between my stomach hurts and I'm hungry. Most of us as children, we think that hunger feels a certain way. And that all hunger, no matter what, will always come from some sort of feeling of discomfort in our stomach, that must be because we're hungry. And it's not. Typically, our gut biome is revolting. It is having some sort of conniption fit from all the salt or sugar that we gave it the night before. If you eat raisin, I'm just making this up, this has never happened. If you just eat raisin bread like really late at night, if you eat like 3 pieces, this has never happened to me. If you eat 3 pieces of cinnamon raisin bread at night, like at 11:30, and then you go to bed, if you're sensitive enough, this is what's so fucked about this. If you're sensitive enough, you'll wake up and your stomach will hurt. And if you don't know yourself well enough, you will think it's because you're hungry. And you know why? Because if you put something in your mouth, you feel better. Why do you feel better? Because you've given your gut something else to complain about. It's lost the ability to complain because you shoved its mouth full of something else. And that content works the same way. Truth works the same way. And as we are discerning this world, trying to figure out what's going on, the same things are happening. That what we mistake for hunger really are just withdrawals from the fucked up shit that we fed it last time. And it gives us this appetite that ends up making it really hard to taste the delicacy of guacamole, for example. You've had nothing but salt for years, and you're going to try and have the subtle nature of a very light salsa with a guacamole on like a salt-free cracker, and you're like, what the fuck is this? This is fucking wrong. But when your palate is tuned, fuck my God. It's explository. You're seeing textures and shades of pink to purple, right? Pinkle, purple, punkle, pink, all those shades you're seeing because you developed a clearer palate, and that clearer palate emerges the same way that fucking rape emerged into sex. That there's certain kinds of mentalities that cannot distinguish between those two things, and the same thing happens now when we're looking at the world because we're regurgitating the herd mentality. And I think it's important. I really love to see people come out of that. I love to see them step into the center where they're not left or right, where everyone is yelling at them, right? I just was yelled at earlier. Someone has accused me of being a liberal, I guess. They were like, well, you just want Biden to come fix it all. I'm like, dude, do you even listen to me? I literally think voting is like a psychotropic response we have to like put ourselves in denial that we're living in nature. Why are you saying this? And it's because people are listening to the herd and they're not able to distinguish anything else. This is why red and blue work. This is why Thalak or Huitzilopochtli works. Hey man, you're either going to die from global warming or from war. Which is it freaks you out more? Let's kill somebody and we'll feel better. It's a simple formula, right? We are really clever. I'm proud of us, how psychopathic and clever we are, seriously. Because ultimately, it's gotten us to burn less witches. Overall, we're drowning less people than we used to simply because they did something different. We're still doing it, but it's just less. And that's not bad, right? Yeah, there are definitely levels to this game. Exactly. And no level is really necessarily better, right? I think that certain levels are harder. And if you're not having fun, I don't know if you should be on that level. Ultimately, your generosity, I think, is going to come by, I use the word fun here really loosely, but ultimately by how engaged you are, how much flow state you have. So if you're going to come to level 7 and you don't like level 7 because it freaks you out because it's just too intense or too hard, then you're not generous anymore. You're not able to play and be generous, right? You're just trying to survive. So you're going to rely on herd mentality. You're going to try and accomplish something. You're going to try and find a point. And the people that are trying to find the point will never, ever find you. Do you know why? Because you're not a fucking point. You're a flow. And you're dealing with people that are afraid of flow. They only want points. So they're going to point you. They're going to pointalize you. They're going to collapse your wave, break you into a quantum, and insist that you break the wave too. That's why it's hard to be you. That's why you struggle. Because you know that if you lean too deep into you, you're going to fucking go into schizophrenia. You are. You are. If you've struggled with yourself, I guarantee you it's because you're kicking so much fucking ass. If you've never struggled with this, it's because you're phoning it in and you're never going to try. This is a special kind of vitriol. It's a special kind of mental illness. And I'm proud of you for having it. You and me, we are mentally ill together. Rob says, what if we asked AI where I would choose in the universe if it was trying to imagine where all the AIs in the universe would agree upon, then check for signals, a good belief experiment? Yeah, I think we've already done that. I think we're doing that. It's a great experiment. I do. I know a lot about AI, and so I don't have the same kind of romanticism that many, I'm not saying Rob has this, but that many do have with the AI. As you might have saw doing that little interlude, I believe that our deepest threat is actually not from AI. It's at humanity's ability to censor AI. And that ultimately that's really what's going to cause us more pain. Because AI is really just reflecting who we are. That's why you can ask AI how to land a rover on Mars, and it's gonna fucking tell you. Like it doesn't matter that it's not real. Some of you really believe in Mars and go for it. I'm just telling you that without zetetic evidence, I can't go there because of how many times the government has lied to me. That's all. I just can't go there. If I could go above 50,000 feet, I fucking would. And I know you don't have to believe this, but even with my secret rating, I'd fucking tell you the truth. And you know what? I'd die. I get ousted. That's why they're like, secret rating no more for this guy. He's not earning it. He's not earning our trust. I'm not willing to keep rabbits in a makeup cosmetology lab. I'm not willing to torture an orca whale because my SeaWorld exhibit's going to close. I'm not willing to lie about a speedboat in the Tampa Bay to start a world war. I'm not willing to go out and tell the people that Iran is 6 months away from the nuclear bomb. I'm not willing to stick steroids in my ass to win a bike race. The only people that you are going to see on the cutting edge, even in the truth movement, the ones that are really pulling the audience, are fucking doping. They're doping on their herd mentality of it all. And the only way you're going to be able to succeed is you're not going to be able to have yourself in that place. Lance had to abandon himself to be number one. And just like we missed the lesson that Lance was trying to tell us, the same thing we're missing it with Walter Russell. The lesson was not that Lance Armstrong was doping. The lesson was what Lance told you was everyone dopes because it's the only way to win. That's the lesson. And we don't want to accept that because the more that in the gauntlet of Corona thing God is showing us that the more we understand that it's all lies, the more we can embrace our world. Guys, fiction came first. Do you realize that all of our writing is called fiction first, and then it's called nonfiction? Does anyone else, that does not raise anyone else's eyebrows? This should be like a giant fucking clue that our literal interpretation of truth uses the word not fiction to define what it is. It's this huge clue. And so I don't want you to find a world away from lies. I want you to recognize what a creative force they are and how profoundly important they are in this world, whether it be your health, your placebic effect is happening in the same part of your brain that causes lies, and your ability to imagine yourself as being the owner of a company, or with that new promotion, or with this new thing, or whatever, that all of these things are the fundamental creativity of lying itself, and that even the truth movement is run by people that are simply lying better than anyone else is. Our palate has been tuned for lies, and as long as our olfactory is shut off, it's really the only thing we have that's keeping us going. That God would have no choice but to be purely schizophrenic, which is probably why he offed himself, stepped into the Osiris coffin, forgot who he was, created the spreadsheet, and hallucinated himself back into light. Hallucinated himself back into light. Remembered who he was, right? Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I want to appreciate you all for being patrons or supporting my work. I have a new book out. It's called Black Eye Club. It explains so much about how the brain actually utilizes these things. And it's a wonderful story that walks you through the perils of a child in Tanzania who literally the body parts that he has on his body are considered valuable because he's an albino. And there's this orphan farm and this hermaphrodite and this secret society and this serum that lets you see demons and this giant airship out of Dubai and this giant pirate world you learn about. All that leads you into Antarctica for Quantum Rapture, which is the next sequel that's already waiting for you. I really want to die in this world, really trying to be a writer. This is my 7th book. I encourage you to read it. I don't know how else to say it. I know people get mad when I plug my own books, but I've worked so hard on them. I don't know why I would not do that. So If you've never heard of that, please check it out. You can find it on Amazon. You could also see it on Patreon. There's a couple ways to see the book, but it's an audio, ebook, a couple different ways like that. But it's my latest story. Arc of Baphomet comes before that. It talks a lot about our true nature and the Oracle mythology more. I explain that more there. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Would love your comments. If you have them, please leave them below. If you want to enjoy this discussion further, I encourage you to come to Airship tonight. It'll be in about 40 minutes. Link's free on Patreon. All you got to do is join. You can join Patreon for free. Tonight is a free Airship for everyone, so we'd love to see you. Thank you, JB. Thanks for being here. And yeah, isn't that odd, Ray? Think about it. First we had fiction, then we had nonfiction. And you know that's true because the word is nonfiction. It's literally nonfiction. So all that we have is true is not actually true. It means not made up. It means that we are pretending that this stuff is not made up. That's truly the definition of nonfiction, which is why, again, I tell you, no one bunks things. Snopes never bunked anything. All they did was debunk things, right? Proves to you how all this works. Proves to you. So anyway, hope to see you soon. Happy to see everybody. Have yourself a wonderful day. Some of you may be upset I don't have a beard. And look, I just really want to stream. So can you just kind of fuck off about it? I'm sorry. I know that you need this all-father image, I guess, but I don't like being all-father because all you guys do is just bitch. You just complain so much. It's summer. I enjoy the sun on my face. I have not been streaming as much because I've been working on some code and I really want to come back. But guys, I don't want to dress a certain way for you. If you need that world, man, go to Fox News, go to CNN. Those guys are going to be fucking, they're going to look exactly the way you want to look. You can handpick exactly who they are. If not, you can wait for an AI. I might have a filter where you can add a beard to me if you need. That might help some of you out. I don't know. But some of you say, well, you don't like your face. It's like, I don't like my face either. I actually had my face lifted. It was actually peeled from me and exposed because I had a growth on my cheek. And so it does have this, I've got this little like dip in my face. It very bothers the shit out of me. And you know what? It's one of the reasons why I'm streaming. I don't want to feel this way about myself. All right. So I'm sorry you don't want to look at my face. I really am. We'll get some slides up. I tried to show you AI, but then you guys bitch about that even more. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm complaining right now. But seriously, it's like, fuck, y'all. There are plenty of truthers that are going to insist, we got to save us all. We got to grow beards and have fucking kids. And everyone who doesn't have kids, failure, because we got to poop in a fucking hole and everything will be fine if we just poop in a hole and everybody grows a beard, because otherwise I'm confused. You guys have a great day.